Welcome to the OC. I'm Phil, and this is my co-host Corey, and we are Ordered Chaos Podcast. And tonight we are talking about Atlantis.
Oh, yes. Ooh.
So frightening.
So frightening, right? Aquaman, Submariner.
It's not frightening. It's actually kind of cool. I think it's kind of cool. I mean,
it's your classic cool. Lost civilization thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But it's like fucking old. It's like really old, right?
Well, all the good civilizations are really old, right?
Yeah. But like, if you think, so maybe we should get into like some of the who's who and
let's start with what is Atlantis. So for those who have lived under a rock and have no conception about pop culture, even to the extent of the Aquaman Submariner connection.
Which who hasn't seen Aquaman? I mean, my wife has watched it probably 30 times.
Okay, that's because she's a big Jason Momoa fan. I'm sure she also watched Game of Thrones.
She calls him Jason Mimosa. God, she loves that guy. I'm like, all right, you know what? Hey, if it was,
I'm a Kate Beckinsale fan. Listen, Kate Beckinsale. I'm a big Kate Beckinsale fan. You put
here's the thing: if we didn't have hunky dudes playing these roles, my wife would never watch a single Marvel movie with me. It would be a tragedy. So by all means, wear your tight suits, boys. It allows me to watch my shows in peace and quiet.
How do you explain Iron Man then? I mean, there was that one scene with Mickey Rourke, I guess.
I don't know if she's ever really watched Iron Man, come to think of it. See? Yeah. Or Doctor Strange. She doesn't really like Doctor Strange.
Benedict didn't do a lot of sit-ups for that role, did he?
Cumberbatch didn't really, But Thor.
Did you see the recent things with him? Holy Christ, he's doing the Hulk Hogan biopic, and the dude
is he like jacked
completely? And I'm like, FYI, Hogan got jacked like that on steroids.
Yeah, he likely did the same.
He's an actor, I guess. He's an actor. I mean, Stallone does it for his the Expendables
in his 60s, isn't he? He's still
true,
fucking shredded. I mean, he
was very puffy in Rambo 4. Rambo 4, he was very puffy, which
Botox.
No, Shane was telling me when you do the human growth hormone, that's what you get. You get you swell up like a balloon.
Well, they can afford this stuff. This stuff is like not cheap. I mean, you get this, like, I know, even Schwarzenegger had his like calves and chest implants. He's had all sorts of crazy. He blew a calf muscle.
We are so far from Atlantis right now. We are literally and figuratively so far from Atlantis. Squirrel. But yes, Atlantis, lost civilization, sunken island.
When I think under the sea.
Yep.
And
you look in pop culture, right? Look at Aquaman. We were just talking about Jason Momoa, right? Of course, they're super advanced.
Yes.
They're awesome, right? Well, if you're so awesome, why are you not on the top of the sea versus under?
Right. Well, I guess there's more of it. Maybe that's why.
They're greedy. Is that what you're saying?
They're greedy. They want more area, They like the coolness of the water.
All through the comics, whenever Atlantis, either Marvel or DC, comes, they're always driving like hover tanks and shooting ray guns and stuff like that, and we're using muskets. It's terrible.
It's like whatchamacallit there, the Black Panther.
Wakanda?
Like the Wakandans, like everything is like super techy and super cool.
Super awesome, right?
Super awesome. But they're like a lost civilization too, right?
And this is the idea where it plays into that, right? That whole idea of these technologically advanced lost civilizations that when they left the world, however, wherever, whatever, however, whenever, the world was poor because of it.
Yeah. Like Shangri-La.
Yep.
The Shangri-La of, and you know what? I think that, and people search for that shit, like, Ponce de Leon and the Fountain of Youth and the, all that fucking, yes, people, if you're listening. I liked history as a kid. Whatever.
The Fountain of Youth thing is a good thing. Some people say it's more of a parable, but no, he actually was looking for what he thought was the Fountain of Youth, just like El Dorado, right? El Dorado.
So Atlantis falls into that, like it's like the mythical land of milk and honey, or in this case,
but it's the OG one,
caviar. It is the OG one, because now you're talking about, like 9,000-year-old.
We're talking officially. Plato talks about it, so
he does talk about it. He said it was 9,000 years old.
Yeah, he officially published his work, Timaeus and Critias, whatever. I'm completely naming it, but I'm sure it'll Google it.
Google it. Plato.
And he
Atlantis.
published that in 360, right?
Yeah, and he was born in 428, so I don't know when he died. He was 80 when he died, so he had to do it between 428 and 3 whatever.
Yeah, so at 360 BC at 428, that means that would put him at what, 62?
Yeah, in there, yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's still the ball, because remember when we're going back, like
it's backwards. Yeah,
because it's BC, folks, before Christ.
Yes.
AD, Anno Domino, the year of our Lord, I think is what it stands for.
It doesn't? I don't know.
It's AD is Anno Domino. I'm not sure what that means in Latin.
No idea. But I think you're right. It's like, I mean, most people refer to it as after Christ or something to that effect. But you're talking, though, like 2,000 years ago or more. Mm-hmm. Like this dude Plato he was a scholar of Socrates, right? He was
one of the students. Yeah, he was one of Socrates' students.
Yeah, and then Aristotle was his.
Is that I'm not sure if some of the lineages.
Crazy sort of, but Plato is considered one of the greatest minds of that era.
He was a really smart guy. Now, to put that into perspective, when he wrote this, he wrote this as, "Hey, this dude Solon told me about it when he was hanging out in Egypt, who heard it from the Egyptians." So it's like it's the ultimate telephone game. Yeah.
So and so told who told me that my pants were on fire. Why not write a book?
Why not write a book about it?
Why not write a book about it? And that's what he did.
He did.
Completely. Totally.
Now, it's also a bit of a creation myth. So if you read into this, like it talks about, the gods, they parceled up the earth, right? And Poseidon got Atlantis because, I don't know, he drew the short straw or the long straw, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, I don't know. So, from what I gathered, I don't know. It was a little confusing because nowhere does he say it's actually the truth, right? He doesn't, and he doesn't say shit about it. He's just like, "Hey, this is my story. Read it."
Exactly, right? Whatever. It's a story, and it's, for the record, I'll summarize it for you. Atlantis goes to war with Athens. Athens, the plucky whatever, beats their asses. So they literally beat Atlantis at war, and Atlantis was supposed to be this superior society
in every way,
with technology, everything. But Athens, it was Rocky IV, basically. Athens is Rocky.
Very much the underdog.
Yeah. So Athens,
and that's why they kind of very much it wasn't like when he fought like Mr. T.
clever car.
Yeah, shit's going sideways and you fight Mr. T. There's just no telling what's going to happen. But no, like with Plato, I mean, you kind of look at. I think it was more philosophical, right? Like they use
the term an allegory, right? Not necessarily. Now he never says, by the way, this is a complete work of fiction, and don't believe it, you losers.
But why would you?
Have you ever read the histories of Herodotus?
No.
So it's a painful read. It's a painful.
I picked boring.
I picked it up because I was listening to the
like
graphic.
Yourself.
Yes. No, I wanted to sound more like an intellectual, right? I picked it up because, have you ever heard of American Gods?
The TV show.
Correct. Before it was a TV show, it was a book.
Oh.
So I had read/listened to the book via audio, and I was like, and the guy was talking about histories of Herodotus and saying, I was like, okay, I'm a big fan of history, although Greek history was ruined for me by taking classical Greek civilizations in university. Completely ruined. Yeah. The teacher focused on the entire wrong parts focused on their comedies, which FYI weren't terribly funny and had a lot of pedophilia in them.
Comedy changes over centuries. What we think is funny now very likely would not be funny 50 years ago.
Dude.
Right? I mean,
Seth Rogen just turned on James Franco and said, I don't think we would do the interview again.
Well, they couldn't. It's like The Office.
That's right. Or Your Highness, or any of those other ones where the humor was moderately offensive. That's even more offensive now.
Right. I mean, and you're seeing, there's just no way. Like, what's his name there from The Office?
Steve Carell.
Steve Carell. Yeah, he's like, I would love to reboot The Office, but we couldn't. There's just my character. He goes, my character alone is not
has probably committed hate crimes. Based on nowadays, he has committed hate crimes. He is, he's like, not just a bad boss. It's like no,
prison Mike. Like all the stereotypes that you can imagine, homosexuality and all that, like all of these things that and maybe it's for the best,
But Archie Bunker is still funny because Archie Bunker, the character portrayed by Carol O'Connor, but the character played by Carol was definitely played as being the stereotypical bigot with a heart of gold, right? He was actually a good person, but ignorant.
But that was a lot 70s. Of people's dads, man. Like my old man was a lot like, I mean, he said some things that I was like, okay, you can't say that in public.
But did you say it at the time? Probably not. No. Now you would say like even when you're an adult, that's probably not cool. But as a kid, I was like, okay, that sounds sure, whatever.
Yeah, no, there's certain words that even as children we knew you shouldn't say. And he said them in sort of not a hateful way. It was like he said things that just didn't make, he would say like this expletive fella that, and he would just be talking about them. I know this so-and-so who's a blank. And it'd be
you have to clarify it, right? Because he's a blank.
And you're like, you can't fucking talk like that. He's like, what? 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 Okay. All right. Well, I don't know. But it's almost like when, somebody in the fucking media asks somebody who's like 80 years old what they
Clint Eastwood. Let's say Clint Eastwood. Let's ask Clint Eastwood any question.
You're like, oh, God damn
it. This is
going to go fucking sideways in a hurry. But Clint.
We're off topic. So back to the Histories of Herodotus. The Histories of Herodotus was a similar style to what Plato wrote in that it was kind of not historical fiction, but it was history told in a sense with a great deal of flair and embellishment,
like Shakespearean sort of
kind of, except like Histories of Herodotus is like he was a peer of Plato, I guess, or before Plato. Goes way back, way back. Anyway, or before.
But I think these guys. I mean, you have to look at it like he was a philosopher. He was,
he had a lot going on.
He did a ton of shit, right? The sciences. I mean, a lot of this stuff is born from this period of time. So,
correct.
But he also liked to fuck around. He liked to be a bit of a jokester.
But he never called out that he was fucking around, and that's where the problem starts to arise.
Yeah, and you usually see smart people. They're always like, sort of like, want to see what their reaction will be, and you're like, oh, I feel like a guinea pig. Fuck again. That's
the Bible falls into this category for some people that the stories told in the Bible are allegories versus actual events. Well, some people look at that and say, oh my God, this is an actual event.
This is it, right? And then if you go, like, I remember watching with Bill Maher, Religulous. So if you get a chance, have you ever seen it? Have you seen Bill Maher?
No, Bill Maher, he's good for a laugh.
He is good for a laugh, but what he does is he's very much an outspoken atheist. And what he does is he goes to the Vatican and the Vatican quickly escorts him out. But one of the Dionysus, how do you say that?
Dionysus is the god of wine, so I don't think it's
Diocese. Diocese. I always have a hard time with that. You and I have our hard time.
Northern education, friends.
We're lucky to speak the English language. But he spoke with one of them, and what the guy is like pretty cool. I mean, not that I believe in what he's saying, but he's like, the Bible, there's stories. There's stories to help guide us and to do, that doesn't mean that they're, gospels. And then Bill Maher's
except when you're talking about
the
Jesus.
Fucking gospels. Wait a minute.
When you're talking about Jesus, most of them will say that's not a story. That's damn truth. And you better take Jesus into your heart. Otherwise you're going to hell.
Yes, buddy.
And they would point while doing it.
Yeah, we're but that's what like when we're looking at, we're talking about things that, first of all, we're talking about text. We have no recording of Plato. So we're talking about so-and-so who heard from so-and-so that Plato said this. And we have to kind of go from there. But like anything that's written from a bazillion years ago or handed down, we go, what the fuck?
But that's the case. This is another case. This is another case of some dude wrote a book. So, except in this case, it's got some cred because it's Plato that wrote the book. It's not.
But the book wasn't
that dude from the Montauk Project, right? It's not the dude from the Philadelphia experiment. It's not the ONR.
Yes,
right.
You're right. But the thing is he didn't necessarily write the whole story about this. It was more of a mention of it. It's like a little mention
of it. Exactly.
It's a tiny little piece of
Athens fought Atlantis. Athens won, Atlantis 0, and then it's disappeared. The gods hated it.
That's it. We're done.
But that's the first mention of it.
That is, the Timaeus and the Criterius.
Yeah.
Now,
the interesting part when you start looking at where it's mentioned next is it starts to show up because a lot of during the Enlightenment period, a lot of the scholars you had to your classics, right? This was the idea that go back and stand on the we are dwarves on the shoulders of giants. So go back.
They're reading Plato though. They're reading Aristotle. They're reading all of these people, and then that just goes. I think it was 141 or something, 148. I can't remember exactly, but this guy Philo, he does another rendition of Atlantis, and he stole it from Plato. I mean,
Thomas More wrote about it in his book about Utopia.
More.
Man for all seasons.
Man for the pen is mightier than the sword.
Yeah, except when it's being used to chop off your head.
Yeah, well, in that case, it was not.
Hey, fun fact. Sure. Do you know when Thomas More was being executed?
Yeah.
He made a joke.
No, what did he say?
He asked the headsman if he could move his beard because his head may be guilty of treason, but his beard is completely innocent.
I like him already.
He might not. He was a devout Christian, a devout Catholic.
I mean, so who wasn't back then?
Well, there were a lot of the Protestants. The Protestants.
Yeah, that's true.
But Thomas More, when he wrote about it, everybody. So this is the thing. Everybody that wrote it after Plato, up to a point, which is the next point we'll get to, basically wrote at it as either a utopian society, meaning the no place that can't exist, but it was perfect and awesome. Thomas More wrote about it in the sense of, hey, Atlantis, everything's great there, and they do all these great. But he was using it as almost sarcastically,
right? Yeah, right? Like sarcasm, right? Yeah, like
intellectual sarcasm, which is probably not something you and I would find. We'd be like, okay, so he, said that the postal service was great. Okay, all right, is that sarcastic?
We don't. Well, I mean, depends who you ask. Don't ask your wife.
Well, yes, that's right. Don't want her going postal on me.
No. Well, but I mean, aside from all of those things, aside from the writings and
those earlier writings, because the big writing comes up next that kicked this all into high gear during the height of the we must find the world, the plucky explorers, et cetera. People.
Is this the 1882 thing?
Yeah, 1882. Yeah. This is the big one that everybody. From this point on. So
from this point on,
this is where it goes off the rails. Okay. So there was a fellow called Ignatius Donnelly, not the Black Donnellys, not Donnelly Ford.
Ignatius.
Is that
it's Ignatius?
So I'm ignorant of how to pronounce Ignatius. Anyway, we'll call him Ig for short. ID. Id. So this is a fellow who wrote a book called Atlantis, the antediluvian, I can't even say antediluvian, and the Antedei.
Atlantis, the antediluvian
world.
I don't know what that even means.
I don't know. He's old.
Anyway. Antiquity, like that's kind of what I'm getting from that.
So he had a firm personal belief, and there were an awful lot of people that shared this belief, particularly later years, that no, it was real, right? And the only way you could separate the fact from fiction that Plato put down is by being a creative genius yourself to be able to sort them. So he very firmly believed that he was one of those special, snowflakes.
Savants.
He did write a lot. And did do a lot. So he wasn't a dumb guy, but he believed he was awesome. And that he could see the pattern, see the matrix.
He's credited with the father of the, what is it called? Father of the 19th century Atlantis revival.
It's all his fault.
Yeah, sounds like a comeback of the Who.
Yes.
Sounds like a fucking Rush concert. Oh, yeah.
but that's it. The revival, because up until that point, right, there had been mentions of it, but nobody was really taking Atlantis seriously.
For good reason.
For good reason. Yeah. Wow.
Where the fuck it would be. Now, the other thing is, like he does say, like Plato goes, okay, yeah, it was like swallowed up by the sea. I mean, in Plato's time, where he was located in the world is full of volcano activity. It's full of tsunamis. It's full of active, horrific fucking natural occurrences. Maybe he was just, shooting some shit about those things, and Atlantis was
islands disappeared all the time, I'm sure, right? Tsunami comes in.
Yeah, so there was what was in the Black Sea. I remember reading something in regards to the Black Sea. There was an island, but you see it all the time, like or pieces of islands erode away.
Yep.
Right. The sea levels change,
and within a generation. So this isn't like it erodes away over hundreds of years. It's like no, 50 years later, that island is now essentially nothing but rock, like a rocky spike.
Yeah, and I remember watching a show on the Aboriginals in Australia, right? So, and I mean, they have a really long period of like, it's like 65,000 years, right, of living on this fucking island. And in that time, like they have a written sort of account of where to fish and where to go. And they're like the places where they used to fish, that they just don't exist anymore. Like the island has changed so much over 65,000 years that it's like, okay, well, that's underwater now. And they've mapped out a bunch of this stuff where it's like, hey, it's disappeared. Tectonic plate shifting is real. We sit on plates and they move.
And they move and stuff happens. Right?
The
Earth is not static.
And when two plates collide, one has to fold under the other. And that's what happens. And sometimes it creates a mountain.
Sometimes it creates a tsunami if it happens underwater.
if it happens in water, especially in water, you have all sorts of things that can happen. But I like the idea of Atlantis. I think it's pretty cool. I think.
Well, so did this guy. He really liked the idea of it because he basically ran with it as the missing link of civilization.
Yeah, but on what basis though? Like what the fuck did he have to?
So this fellow starts to put the pseudo into pseudoscience and pseudo history, right? Where he goes off and says, "This
is where it all begins."
That actually, we can blame Plato a little bit, but Plato didn't know.
Plato was being playful.
He was being, let's say, Plato was being playful.
That's right.
Right. And everybody else who wrote after it, nobody treated it seriously. They always treated it as that mythical island, that Garden of Eden, whatever, which is actually one of the theories that Atlantis was the Garden of Eden, which comes up later in 1995 in another book. But this fellow believed it was real and that he saw through what Plato was trying to tell generations.
Yeah, but how? And I get it.
You'd have to read his book, and I don't want to do that.
People are.
You can, by the way. I've got a link to it. If you want to read his book, sure.
Yeah, but I'm okay. Maybe some of the audience would love to read his book.
It'll be in my notes. So if you go to my notes, I've got a link to the book. Yeah, it's on the archives, or I think it's on the archives, or
hopefully it's free.
Gutenberg. Yeah, it is. It is. It's a complete scan of it.
Yeah, I just I don't get it. Like you're talking Plato, what, 2,300 years ago, and you're trying to guess what the man was thinking.
No, you're not guessing because you're brilliant and gifted. You can see exactly what it is. You can figure out, hey, this existed in the Atlantic Ocean. He even knew where it was in the Atlantic Ocean between the.
So this guy thought it was
opposite the Mediterranean Sea. So
like it was in the middle. It was in the middle of the fucking.
Why not? Right?
Yeah, I remember reading. And then it just sunk. But where is it now? We got sonar, man. We got sideband sonar. We can fucking see everything.
This was 1882, so he didn't have that. But he went with the premise, and he's not alone in this, that the commonalities amongst a bunch of civilizations, the pyramids, for example. We've got pyramids in South America. We've got pyramids in Egypt.
Yeah.
Right. Sure. And there's other areas. They're up on mountains. They're all over the place. So wait a second. Who all figured out pyramids? Well, Atlanteans.
Must have been.
Yeah.
Well,
but this book is what triggers off. This is the trigger off point that triggers a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of neat how people, and then you get a following.
Oh yeah. Well, one of his followers was some Russian lady named Madame Blavatsky. She published The Secret Doctrine.
Ooh. That's so crazy.
Yeah, apparently there were secrets told to her by Atlanteans, which I'm like, okay, wait a second.
So now you okay.
Now you've talked to them, I guess.
So this is what happens. This sounds a lot like a Montauk Project
or the Philadelphia experiment, where all of a sudden people
we watched the movie and then realized we were part of it.
Past life regression is a big thing. Madame Blavatsky would believe that, there are people alive who have been reincarnated, who are former Atlanteans, but she drew heavily from
his writing,
Donnelly's book, right?
Yeah. What year?
And she talks about root races. The Atlanteans was like the fourth root race of humanity, whatever the hell that means.
I don't. Must mean that they were one of four basic societies,
which actually comes back later. Just kind of screw things up. That whole idea that there was a superior race on an island.
Yeah, sounds a lot like another fellow we knew who wore a swastika.
But
bed. Little fella, little mustache.
Yeah,
not very nice.
But she continued this work because again, it was a train, right? You think everybody, Donnelly's the conductor of the Atlantis revival train, or the father of it, what do you want to call it? And all of a sudden people are hopping on and they're referencing his work, which references Plato. So damn, bro, you can't get better than Plato. It's a classic.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, he was a pretty solid dude.
Well, he also pulled from, so my understanding is Donnelly also pulled from like the Bible, right? So when you said, how did he figure all this out? He pulled from a bunch of historical sources, but more like, hey, this here links back to this tangentially.
And I think when you do that, when you involve religion, when you take a mind that is searching for something, and then you kind of give it the aha, then you get a following, right? And there are a ton of people that believe in Atlantis, and I wasn't really one of them at all. I love the idea. I love the idea
too. I love the idea that
it's a
super civilization that ceased to exist.
Yeah, because why?
It's a constant, by the way. Most civilizations, Rome, China, they've all done this.
Yeah, but to be sucked up, why wouldn't they just move?
Maybe they did. Again, back to the previous theory about all civilizations having to be with.
Yeah, Mayanism. Have you heard of that?
So I've touched on it, but I didn't delve deeply, and I went more into the cray. But go ahead.
There's a theory that because the Mayans were very advanced, right, for their time period, especially with their aqueducts and all sorts of crazy structures that they build, and pyramids, and you see that also in Egypt, right?
And Rome.
Excuse me. Rome stole everything. The Romans fucking didn't do anything themselves. They went and they stole shit from everybody, and
the Greeks would agree with you.
Yeah, so they stole like the aqueduct ideas and all even the pantheons and all that shit. I mean, it's all taken from. They even stole their gods.
They renamed them though.
Well, that's
like they stole them, and they jacked the Greek gods, and then basically spray painted them, put some spinners, and then said, "Hey, it's like look at my new gods."
Whatever,
exactly.
Fuck it.
Zeus, you're now Jupiter.
Jeez, Zeus, you're the biggest, fattest planet in the solar system. Fucking perfect. But yeah, so Mayanism is sort of this idea that the Mayans were Atlanteans, and there's a whole fucking group, and then they just couldn't. They obviously, the Mayans suffered a fate similar to Atlanteans, right? They just sort of disappeared.
Well, wasn't the Spanish that killed them?
Not really. No,
but that was some of the Aztecs, right?
That was so Aztecs are different. Like the ancient Mayan ruins and all that shit were ruins when Columbus came over and started to annihilate all of them.
With his venereal diseases.
Oh no, yeah, and a lot of other things like smallpox and plague. Columbus was not a good guy. Just so you know. do some reading. He was not a fucking good people. It was horrible. They slaughtered millions and millions of people. And then they paid other people to slaughter, like their own tribes to slaughter. Be like, hey, we're going to obliterate you, but if you help us obliterate, your neighbors, we'll let you live.
We'll put you down on the list. You'll be further down on the list for the obliteration.
Haha, joke's on you. Oh, you will now be known as Mexican. And you'll speak our language. And we'll usurp all of you people and breed with you until you no longer a culture. Yeah, that was Columbus. Anyway, happened all along North America. But back to Mayanism. So they disappeared. So it's a similar sort of scenario, right? And boom, there you are. It's
now what books have been written about it? So this is the problem with the Atlantis thing, is that there are actually people writing books and they're being used as definitive sources of information.
I don't have, I know there was a few. So there, a lot of these for the Mayanism anyway, they're just putting correlations together, right? So we don't know when the Mayans actually sort of were vanquished or whatever happened to the civilization. You see this in every civilization. You just said it, like the ancient Mongols, a fucking guy, like Genghis Khan, he controlled 2/3 of Asia, and then got too big, and then he collapsed. Look at Rome, this tiny little piss pot country in the middle of fuck nowhere, the middle of the Mediterranean, took over half the world of the
roads everywhere, all leading to Rome.
All roads lead, and it did.
Technically, all roads lead from Rome, because
like
what they would do is
for the Romans
build out.
The Brits wouldn't have any kind of fucking waterways or systems. I mean, they built all that shit.
Oh yeah,
so most of Britain, and most people don't know that, is that most of Britain is their architecture is Roman.
Well, you've got the Hadrian's Wall, right?
Yeah,
that's in Britain, right?
I think so.
That's in Britain. Yeah.
So and then wherever they went, and then the British did the same shit. Like if you go to India, India was occupied by Britain and
colonial empire.
Yeah, so you start to see all these, like the bird signs.
So this links back to the Atlantis thing, right? Who's to say Atlantis wasn't the same? They were the colonial empire, and they were going off and seeding the Mayans,
for sure,
the Egyptians, the Greek, whatever.
I think that it would have, like, if you were that powerful, but Plato saying that they were beaten by, the Athenians,
the plucky Athens, but that's because the Athens were awesome, and he was in Athens, so.
Well, we got Spartans and shit like that.
Got Spartans. By the way, the Spartans and the Athens were not friends.
No.
They fought as often as they worked together. If the Greek city-states actually regularly could work together, they wouldn't have fallen to Rome.
Well, this is true. And that damn horse.
Damn horse. That was Trojan. Troy, wasn't it? That was Troy, right?
The Trojan horse.
Trojan man.
I don't know. I haven't even seen one of those in a long time. The fact is, but you see these correlations, and it just sounds like another good story.
Yep. But that's the problem, is this good story becomes fact. And because of Ignatius, right?
Yes. Donald.
Now, his work was also referenced a little later in 1929 by a fellow called Herman Wirth.
Oh, good old Herman Wirth.
Yeah, Herman Wirth. So this is where things start to get kind of bad. So this was 1929, and this is the prehistory of the Atlantic Nordic race.
Oh, is this where he's the Swede? Is this where the Atlantis was actually in Sweden? And the only people that believed it were the Swedes.
This fellow is not that guy. This guy was actually a Nazi.
Oh, well, even
so
better.
this is the Aryan, one of the Aryan race, superior super race, right? So pulling back on Madame Blavatsky's secret doctrine that the fourth root race was Atlanteans. FYI, she basically said they weren't Caucasian; they were all olive skin tone. Exactly, like your traditional Mediterranean
people.
Not pale-skinned Nordic folks.
Yeah. You and we're not doing well in the Mediterranean with our complexions.
No,
we're burning.
That's right. When we first started up tonight, I remember you complained. You said, geez, you look like you're burnt. And the color
intensity looked a bit jaundiced.
I have no idea why the color intensity was set that high, but crazy. I digress. Yeah. So this Herman Wirth guy wrote that book about the prehistory, and that was kicking things off about this. Hey, I like your ideas.
And once again, to kick the Jews down.
Because obviously they're not from Atlantis.
Well, obviously.
But the German people
must have been.
We're
the superior,
we're awesome.
We're superior
race.
Yeah.
Right.
For
the
sure.
Aryan race.
Yeah. That didn't work out so great for them.
No, and it triggered a bunch of things like the Thule Society, right? Where they had the belief of this ancient Germanic Superman superior race.
I did read about that. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know, it makes you wonder that if in desperate times, so you take like the you know, like in the 20s and Germany was going through a rough time and financially, right? And and you wonder, you know, like it gives people something to hold on to.
Between that and kicking the Jews, I mean, you've got
you got to blame
hope,
somebody,
right? You're blaming the Jews, but you're saying, but wait a second, look, we're awesome, okay? You got to believe in yourself.
Yeah, you look in the mirror and you go, I'm a fucking stud.
I'm a champion. I'm a fucking champion.
Yeah, look at this face.
Yes.
German.
Heinrich. Heinrich. Yeah, I'm sure he looked in the mirror, and I don't think I could see him doing the poses like that skinny, that frail kid doing that.
Yeah, you know, and you look at all these fucking Nazis, and they all are ugly as fuck. Like they're just.
I think Herman Goring was the most stylish of them.
Well, he
was the Luftwaffe dude who wore
the jackets made out of Jews, wasn't it?
I don't know if he actually had the jackets made of Jews, but he had some pretty flashy clothing. Like he was the guy when they're all showing up in black, he's showing up in like a white uniform because
Hitler's like, fucking tone it down, Goring. Fuck. You're making us look all bad.
What's your Hugo Boss uniform on?
Your Hugo Boss. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
But these ideas took root. These ideas took root, right?
For sure.
The idea that Atlantis is the superior. So Atlantis, superior being, and we've got books to show how awesome they are, right?
Right. From Plato, who was not German.
Not German. And in that case, they lost. The Atlanteans were not the awesome people.
Yeah. And they got their asses kicked, but whatever.
Mr. Donnelly, he wrote a book.
Yeah.
Book. Right. Madame Blavatsky.
And this goes back to what you said about books. You said you're like, you know how they fucking write a book and then everyone believes it. And I guess it's sort of true, other than, now, this time period.
Well, once we moved away from an oral culture, my friend, once we moved away from an oral culture, now all of a sudden, if it's written down.
Everything's written down. Yeah.
I don't know if the web has the same thing. Yeah, true.
Right. If it happens on Instagram or Facebook, well, fuck. I mean, it's got to be real. It's got to be true.
Deepfakes are a thing. And these are some of the first original deepfakes. Yes.
What's that?
These are some of the original deepfakes, the idea of these books. Now, they weren't intentional. The people who wrote these books believed what they were doing. Like they believed it full on.
Yeah.
As opposed to deepfakes, which most people don't believe. Obama said certain things, or that the four presidents of the United States can actually sing "fuck the police," much less know the words.
Know the words. Right. But it goes to show, though, that like history sort of repeats itself over and over and over and over again. And you get, who knows, before Plato. I mean, somebody told Plato.
Well, right? Solon did this. His grandfather or buddy of his grandfather named Solon heard it from the Egyptians.
Who told him?
The Egyptians.
Well,
the Egyptians apparently told him about the Athens fighting Atlantis.
Yeah, but there had to be a guy that told him, right? And then who told that fucking guy?
Who told that?
And right. And so you kind of go, okay, so this story is very incomplete.
Yep. And it keeps going, like right till 1995. You've got people writing books. The Fingerprints of the Gods by Graham Hancock. He talks about the idea of Atlantis. Same idea back to Donnelly's work of it was the root of civilization.
Mm-hmm.
It was an advanced civilization that colonized the world or fled the destruction of the island.
And it's crazy that you can extrapolate that from like a few fleeting words from Plato. But it was, and I do think that there, people are looking, and there has been places in the world like the Bimini Road. So,
so let's start talking location wise, right? So some of the locations about Atlantis, where it is.
The Atlantic
Bimini Road. That's the most recent one, right?
That is. That's like this century. You know, I don't know when exactly it was discovered. I think it was probably 20 years ago. But yeah, so you find like
1968 is when it was apparently discovered.
Oh fuck, 40 some years ago. Jesus.
An extensive a fellow what is it? Joseph Valentine, sounds like an action hero. Jacques Mayall, less of an action hero name, and Robert Angove encountered extensive pavement of what was found to be noticeably rounded stones of varying thighs and thickness.
Thighs?
Thighs in thickness.
Oh, good.
I'm trying to avoid my F to make it easier for you to this out when you do the editing.
That's not going to help.
No, it's not. To the exact opposite.
So yeah, so they find this fucking thing, and it does look like, I looked at a bunch of pictures of it. I mean, there's no question this is made by man. At what point in time? No idea. Okay,
so when you say there's no question, so symmetry generally doesn't exist in nature, right?
Correct.
So if you see something that looks like that, you're like, okay,
rectangles,
rectangles, right? Relatively even, not patterns. Totally consistent, but there's a pattern there, right?
Yeah.
Now our minds look for patterns. Unfortunately, some of the geologists would disagree with you.
It's good because I'm not a scientist.
Right. So, for example, some investigators state that so they would say, for example, some investigators state that where sand had washed away between the scenes, another course of blocks can be seen along smaller blocks underlying, right? So it says a continuous second layer, right? Other people go off and what is it? Where's the big one? 1 second here. They talk about the road. Blah, 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 blah. I had this here. Now, apparently in 1938, by the way, an American mystic predicted a road to Atlantis. For what it's worth.
Yeah. How right
blah, blah,
they
blah.
were.
How right they were.
The road goes nowhere.
Yeah, so they're basically saying you've got some claiming it's natural bedrock, right? That we're seeing what looks to be a road, but they're like, this is natural bedrock, and you can see other formations in the middle of nowhere where that look similar. That's essentially the argument.
Oh, all right. To me, when I'm looking at pictures of it, and
it looks like a paved road, doesn't it? Like it looks like the kind of road.
It looks like big giant blocks, right? Like it would have been a road of,
somebody would have sat down, and there's multiple layers,
and it's eroded over, thousands of years or however long. Who knows? But maybe, who knows? I don't fucking know.
But this is the idea that this road leads to where points to where Atlantis was, like either similar to Rome, right?
Yeah.
Rome built all these roads leading out from it. So major civilizations that want to be trading hubs. Now, mind you, depending on the size of your island, I guess, like they're not saying it was Bimini Road on the middle of the ocean. They're saying that part of the ocean would have been up.
It would have been
would have been an island at one point, right? It would have been up.
Which is no longer there.
What's no longer there? It's now under the sea, like Sebastian the crab.
Under the sea, man. He died.
That
dude died. The voice of Sebastian the crab.
Who was the voice?
I don't know.
But apparently he's dead.
He just died.
Okay. I don't know. Was he actually Jamaican or was it just a? Because I don't think you could do that now. Like, I don't think you could go off and do a voice like Sebastian the crab. I know. No, Dan Casta is it Dan Castanel? Oh no, who the hell's the guy that does a poo on Simpsons?
Oh, I don't know.
I know his name. Damn it, I'm missing it. I'm drawing a blank on it. He was also on Mystery Man, I believe. He was the Blue Raja, I think.
Oh, the Blue Raja guy.
Yeah. Anyway, there's that idea that you can't do that. Like you could do that. You couldn't do a parody or a stereotype of a minority or an ethnicity that you technically aren't. So if you were Jamaican, you could do it, but
I don't know if he was Jamaican. I think he was African American. But I mean, have you ever heard like fucking deep Jamaican accent? You barely understand a goddamn word they're saying.
Have you ever heard English? When you go to the UK and you talk to some people, you're like, I don't even know language. I don't know what language you're speaking, but it ain't English.
Like I worked with a guy from Liverpool. Oh dear Lord,
yeah.
Well, but he was here for a long time, so you can understand him. But I remember one of his buddies came back over, and all of a sudden his voice and like everything changed. They started talking to each other couldn't understand a goddamn thing they were saying.
And this is one of the things they talk
Yeah.
about when some of the theories of Atlantis being colonized is that some of the commonalities between languages in disparate parts of the world that, wait a second.
Right. Yeah.
Common root.
Could be. Fuck. Who knows? Well, let's talk about some of the weird shit.
Okay. So some of the weird shit is linked between what Atlantis was and where it is. So what do you think we should talk about first? What it was or where it is?
What it was. So, or well, I don't have a lot, so you're going to have to fill in the blanks here, but Atlantis was Antarctica. Did you read that? I thought it was pretty cool. It was actually a pretty neat idea. But because it was at one point Antarctica would have been, if it was part of Pangea, like it would have been actually more central, right? So, and then as tectonic plate shifting, I mean, it just sort of floated to where it is.
So fingerprint of the gods. This is what the Graham Hancock fellow says. He's one of the.
Oh, he's the guy.
He's one of the fellows just says Antarctica.
Yeah,
and he links to the original Garden of Eden, right? It would have started equator-ish, so nice, tropical, warm, beautiful. And then it didn't fall into the ocean.
No,
it drifted and became an iceberg.
Basically, it went to where the sun isn't obviously shining all the time. There's some fucking weird stuff about Antarctica. Like you can't just go and visit Antarctica either.
Why the hell would you want to?
I don't know.
Penguins. There are penguins in Antarctica.
This is an agreement with numerous countries.
Okay.
You don't just go in. Look it up. It's fucking very interesting. Like you need to be researchers or have permission by certain countries to actually go to Antarctica. You can't just fucking show up.
But they have outposts there, right? Like there are international outposts similar to
but it's international. So and there's representatives from all sorts of countries, and it's one of those things.
Where did the Thing take place? John Carpenter's The Thing.
Did that take place in the Arctic?
Okay, well,
which was a great movie. Like I love
Kurt Russell did a great. We're talking the second one, the one with Kurt Russell.
Yes,
not the original. The Thing. I think there was an original The Thing.
There was.
Yeah,
and it wasn't bad, but Kurt Russell's is by far with
just the scene where they're. So spoiler, if you haven't seen it, folks, it doesn't end well for anybody. No. It ends with two of the main characters sitting outside the burning habitat.
Yeah,
looking at each other, not sure if the other's the Thing.
Yeah. And there's a pretty good chance that one of them is.
That's right.
Wilford Brimley, I believe, is also in that one. Yeah, me and my shredded wheat.
Remembering Wilfred.
I loved Wilford Brimley.
Yeah, and it's funny when you think of Antarctica, Nazis, right? There's Nazis, they're associated with Antarctica, that they sent people all over the place to look for stuff.
Yeah, and now Antarctica, like I said, there's a lot of mystery. Can't go there. Why can't I go there? I want to trip there. I want to see it. Nope, not allowed.
Yeah,
you need international approval from like 9 countries. Right, you're hiding something, motherfucker.
You're hiding, exactly. That's right.
There's some shit being hidden.
Heaven forbid they have it there because it's a horrible place. They're like, we're not coming to get you if you die. So no, don't go there.
Maybe, who knows? What's the climate like in the summer? I don't know.
It's not apparently bad. Slightly less shitty.
Oh, no,
like this is the place where they've got ropes set up so you can find your way between habitats, because if you don't,
when you go take a shit,
exactly right.
Follow the rope, Hank. If you don't follow the rope, they'll get you.
They'll get you. The polar bear. I don't know them. The Atlanteans.
Is there polar bears there? I don't think.
I don't know. I seem to remember something about a joke, like a Joker logic puzzle saying, if you see if you're in this place, what color bear would you see? And it'd be like, well, you wouldn't see a bear because they don't exist there.
Yeah, probably not. Maybe it's, I don't know. I think, Arctic for sure. Polar bears, and they're moving fucking down into Canada. Their habitat is being destroyed. Now we have this ginormous land carnivore
breeding with the bears there, making super mega apex predators.
Yeah,
great.
Kodiak bears. Fucking nonsense.
Thank you.
Ginormous, angry, temperamental bears. Fuck. Anyway, so that was mine. I don't know if that. What do you got?
So the big one is aliens, and let's link that into aliens and I don't know, any other theory where basically the Atlanteans were not actual humans, they were aliens.
They were aliens, and then they fucked off.
Like it's the island they talked about was not an island. It was a spaceship.
That would be fucking. And maybe the Bimini Road was like pilgrims, making a road to their ship. I don't know.
Or just simply the result of blast off, and it just toasted all the rock and happened to make it look like pavement. Yeah. I don't know. It's not. I don't put a lot of faith in that theory.
No,
it's not particularly great.
And I do love alien ideas because but I don't know.
But it's the whole culture, right? So it lines up with the utopia, lines up with the advanced technology. However, if they can get here, how did they lose to a bunch of Athens and ships?
That makes no sense. And
maybe also, Plato was just talking trash. He was like, no, we kicked their ass. Do you see them around?
Shit talking.
We won. Go Athens.
Hey, if you're Plato, you're an important dude. People are going to be fucking listening to your shit for years.
I don't see any Atlanteans talking here.
Right.
I must have won.
The floor, bitch. Like how you're going to listen to me. And I don't, I mean, come on. The history is written by the winners.
Generally, yeah. So that means Athens did win, right?
Well,
or Atlantis screwed off. They left. They're like, we're screwing off.
Or like,
forget you guys. And they're like, yeah, you'd better run.
Exactly. And they're like, what do these guys think we're doing over here? Like, Jerry had to take a piss. We get attacked.
Like, jerks. Get with a little saucer. These dudes are coming up in little boats.
Can you imagine?
Are they throwing sticks at us?
They're fucking throwing rocks and sticks.
I think they're making offerings. Like, I don't know. I think we're prime directive.
I mean, your spices are good and all, but we're fucking off to the next solar system.
Well, some people would say, for example, that the aliens were the leaders of Atlantis and they had not necessarily human slaves, but there were humans there. And those were the guys that, did stuff.
Makes sense.
I guess. Yeah. But it's not great. Like, it's not my favorite one.
Well, what do I have? What's next? Atlantis was swallowed by the Bermuda Triangle.
We talked about that last episode, right?
Fuck. Well, yes. But this is Charles Berlitz. Yeah, you mentioned him last time.
Chucky B.
Old Chucky Berlitz. Worked for Food City. Anyway, in 1970 he claims that because of the cosmic fucking portals of the Bermuda Triangle, it is sucked the very island of Atlantis into its
Didn't somebody else also say the reason why the Bermuda Triangle is a thing, which FYI folks, it really isn't, is because Atlantis was there and it had all this awesome tech that's fucking everything up?
That was another thing, or it was aliens.
Or it was aliens. Yeah.
So man, these are very 20th century sort of ideas, right? You kind of go, aliens, Bermuda Triangle. So no mention of Bermuda Triangle by anybody about anything until we talked about that the Miami Herald, an article, and then later it's romanticized in books. And that you're seeing that the same thing with Atlantis. It's just it's just a bunch of fucking bullshit. I mean, if you're watching and you're a huge Atlantean fan, I'm sorry. I can't. I'm
the closest we found is that Bimpi Road. Or Bimpi
Road. That is weird. Now there is another place.
Well, there's a couple places. So one of the ones. Did you hear about the Eye of the Sahara?
Yes, I read a little bit about that. Yeah,
based on Plato's description of Atlantis, somebody said, "Well, hey, if you Google Earth, there's this spot in the Sahara."
Yeah, that looks just like it.
Looks like it would be Atlantis. Now, they also thought it was originally a meteor impact versus a mythical civilization. So,
right. I don't know.
Which puts it nowhere near water because it's the Sahara.
It's the fucking desert. Yeah. And the other one is what is it? What do I have here? Oh, that Atlantis is actually the story of Minoan civilization.
Ah, yes.
Right. That they existed between 2500 and 1600 BC. But that doesn't make any sense either, because that's about, like Plato. I mean, Plato's saying 9,000 years, right? So, I mean, his written history would be in that area, no? Do you think?
I guess if you could graph it out, I suppose, and see.
Well, they hung out in Crete and the Greek islands, and they had a great life until something happened, tsunami.
Well, look at what was it? God, what was the big volcano?
Vesuvius,
Mount Vesuvius, Pompeii. There's a bunch of them, right? Pompeii. So you can see there's a history of. Now, usually what happens is everything gets covered with ash, and then we dig them up later. We haven't found anything to suggest in any of these locations.
Yeah, Pompeii was actually pretty fucking amazing. How the bodies were, like covered in ash. They suffocated.
Oh, if you didn't get out in time, you had a very narrow window to get the hell out of there, and you couldn't. So there's a fascinating TED Ed. It's 5 minutes. I suggest you read it about Pompeii, and it talks about sort of 3 fictional people, and one decides to leave the city by ground, one decides to stay in the city and sort of wait things out, and the other tries to leave by ship.
Okay.
The only person who realistically stood a chance of getting away was the one who left on foot, assuming they left early enough.
Yeah, to try and get as far away as possible.
Yep.
Yeah. So, what it does is it just snuffs out the fucking air. There's no air. You can't breathe.
But you're perfectly preserved. That's the cool part.
Perfectly,
these people preserved, like they're
ones where they're holding their children and shit, and it's like, oh, you waited.
Yep.
Would have got the fuck. They had lots of warning too, so they had tons of.
They knew. But where do you go? You got to be ready to leave.
You know what? It's like those people in like hurricanes. Like, I'm gonna hunker in my bunker. It's like Jeb and I boarded up all the windows. We're gonna be just fucking fine. No, you're not.
You're not.
You have this good chance of dying.
Correct.
Fuck,
the smart people, generally, you're smart to get the hell out.
Yeah, your shit's not worth your life. You can say what you want, but your stuff is not worth your life. So, in the event of a volcanic eruption, run away.
Get the hell. Cheese out, bro. Cheese out.
What else do you have?
Apparently, Atlantis is off the coast of Britain. Near
Ireland.
A place called Rockall. It's a Rockall. It is most likely the location for Atlantis, as there are clear and obvious man-made features that leave no doubt of an ancient lost civilization.
Yeah. So that's the dude that thinks Ireland was Atlantis. So there's a lot of people that think their country is Atlantis. But where does that, like the Swedes, there was the Swedish guy. Only the Swedes believed him. Some of them, and the others were like, Yurik is very not well. And he said, he's not well. He is, but it's very stupid. And then you've got that guy, I believe it, and it's the reading I did. It was Ireland, and apparently he's a geologist, and he
points out some structures saying these underwater
98.7%, and all the
and when you see an election like that. When you see an election like that, you're like, wait a second. You're telling me 98% of the people voted for you? I don't believe those results. If you told me 70, 60, 51, I would have said, okay, fine. Yeah, that's
even
believable.
50. That's even a fucking staggering number of coincidences.
It still gives you a chance of saying, well, okay, it's not a 50% chance of being right. It's a 50% chance of being wrong.
All of his peers basically told him, like, you're on crack. They're the Irish, for God's sakes. Drinking and boxing, that's what they do.
This myth surrounding Atlantis, that they were all awesome and superior. Hence, everybody wants to put it in, we're descended from Atlanteans.
Well, that's I think where it comes from, right? Like we're Atlanteans, or I've got gills. Look, my gill. No,
I don't see. That's the problem.
Waterworld.
Yes, that's right.
Tell me you liked Waterworld.
I did not like. Okay, I'm a big I do like Dennis Hopper. I particularly enjoyed him in Super Mario Bros.
Really?
It was a horrible movie. If you're ever looking for a painful watch Super Mario Bros, it is literally the worst use of a video game license aside of Alone in the Dark.
You know what? I love Kevin Costner movies. It's my.
You must have loved The Postman.
I did like The Postman, George Washington. Anyway. Yeah. So Waterworld, but I mean, it's like, but it's entirely possible that, if our ice caps continue to melt, that there'll be a lot more land masses underwater. Right? Who knows?
True. And it doesn't take too many meteor impacts to sink an island.
or destroy a world.
Or destroy a world, right? I mean,
Yeah.
depending on where it hits.
Yes.
Now, it's most likely, so most meteors are, if they come in, 70% of the world plus is water. It's most likely going to be a water landing.
Yeah, which is not good for, coastal areas.
No, but it's certainly a hell of a lot better than a 100 megaton thermonuclear explosion dead center of America, because that's the force it's hitting with. Like these things, when they hit, they're not small.
No, well, and that's what they figured. Like destroyed, the dinosaurs and created.
Now it hit. They think they said somewhere in South America. Is that where they think the one that destroyed the dinosaurs? Because it's not even it wasn't really that big. No, but it was enough to create a
catastrophic
winter, catastrophic climate change.
They figured 4 or 5 years of for the dust to settle. So that's a long fucking time for no sun. And that's why mammals, we were like, haha, bitches, we generate our own heat.
Temperature drops. Well, guess what?
Yeah, we can jug on
your eggs. Yummy.
We're eating your eggs, bitches.
Back to your Waterworld comment about the gills. They're like, well, people could have evolved. No, evolution does not happen that fast. Like when your island sinking is not the time to grow gills. You either have gills before the island sinks, or you drowned. Exactly, right?
Like, and there's no mention of them having any kind of superpowers or anything.
No, now their mention is they're superior, right? Yeah. So there's that. But one of the other cool things is when we talk about how it disappeared, right? Theory is the gods were pissed at it, which I guess Poseidon was upset because his team lost, so he murdered his team.
So he murdered. Wait a minute.
Yeah,
he murdered the whole team.
The whole team. Which, by the way, he had hooked up with a mortal woman and apparently had 5 sets of twins. Atlas was king of Atlantis, not the same Atlas that holds up the world. It's a different Atlas. Yeah. That Atlas was a Titan. He named his son Atlas. I guess technically one of the Titans. I don't know.
The Titans tried to kill the gods, from what I heard.
Well, the Titans were the forebearers of the gods. And Croesus basically was said, "Hey, my children are going to rise up and kill me, so I should eat them."
Yes, and he ate them.
So that's where Gaia, or I think it was Gaia, swapped out Zeus for a big rock. And then I think it was Gaia. I can't remember which Titan it was. But anyway.
That's a whole other thing, man.
The fact is, did the gods destroy it? Did they blow themselves up? Did aliens do it? Were the aliens leaving? What were they? Right? What happened to Atlantis?
Not answered any questions. Just
because there's no answers. Because this place might not even friggin' exist.
It didn't. There's Plato. If you're out there in the cosmos, he's fucking like rolling over laughing.
Think about
in stupid
300 years, Phil, when people are looking back and they're going to pull up a copy of Superman. They're going to say, look at this place called Metropolis. This one dude was flying around.
This dude was crazy.
Crazy.
Those tight shorts.
Underwear on the outside. Who does that?
Socks. He's just wearing socks. Jesus. Well, I'm thinking, you want to wrap it up? Is that?
Yeah. So summation, folks. Somebody wrote a book. And then a bunch of people wrote the book on that book. Some people at one point thought it was really serious. And now we have this thing that that we're looking for a place that
doesn't exist.
Like Thomas More said, utopia. Utopia is Latin for no place. So Atlantis really is a utopia because it doesn't exist.
Yeah. I believe you're correct. And on that note, I want to do next week Wendigos and skinwalkers, bitches.
Oh, yeah. You can't go wrong with cannibalism.
Oh, boy. I don't know much about it. I know it's fucking kind of terrifying. So, yeah. So,
that's more of a myths and legends thing, which is kind of cool. So, it's
myths and legends and skinwalkers. So, compliments of my wife, actually. She said, well, maybe we should do that.
Oh, that makes sense given her background.
Yes,
that's traditional. That is one of those traditional,
like Navajo, and that's the Wendigo, which I thought I did a little bit of reading about. Oh my god, damn, that's fucking terrifying. Don't tell those bedtime stories to your kids. They're not going to sleep very well. But yeah, I think that would be an interesting one to talk about.
Very much so.
Scare the shit out of me, probably. I'm easily scared.
Well, if you're scared, what you do is you read comics. It's all over comics. Wendigos show up in comics all the time. So just look at that, and that usually takes out the fear.
Perfect.
From the 1960s, you'll be fine.
I'll be good.
Not now. Not the 90s. 90s will edgelord.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot. Well, what is there? Skinwalker Ranch, I think, is one of the. I don't know anything about it either, but I've heard of it. It's popular. So
apparently it's a pretty fucked up place with a lot of, I don't want to say radioactivity, but there's stuff going on there.
Guns. They all have lots of guns. I saw a preview for it and they're like armed to the teeth. I'm like, okay, well, that'll be interesting. So that's next week.
Cool.
So thanks a lot for watching. I'm Phil. This is my co-host Corey, and we're Ordered Chaos Podcast. So like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
We'll see you here next week. Have a good night.
Take care, folks.